Holy Father, we're going to, first of all, listen to words from Lord Jonathan Sacks, who is the sixth person to occupy the office of Chief Rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregations of the Commonwealth. By training, Dr. Jonathan Sacks is a philosopher and is known in the Jewish community above all for his innovative projects to renew Jewish life here in Britain and elsewhere. But he makes an impact far beyond the Jewish community through his books and, for many of us, through his radio and television broadcasts. And his contribution to Thought for the Day on Wednesday this week was a very positive introduction to our meeting here this morning. Many people know we are here thanks in no small measure to his kind and encouraging words. Lord Jonathan Sacks.
Your Holiness, we welcome you, leader of a great faith, to this gathering of many faiths. In a land where once battles were fought in the name of faith, and where now we share friendship across faith. That is a climate change worth celebrating. And we recognize the immense role the Vatican has played and continues to play in bringing it about. It was Nostra Aetate 45 years ago that brought about the single greatest transformation in interfaith relations in recent history. And we recognize your visit here today as a new chapter in that story, and a vital one. The secularization of Europe that began in the 17th century did not happen because people lost faith in God. Newton and Descartes, the heroes of the Enlightenment, believed in God very much indeed. What led to secularization was that people lost faith in the ability of people of faith to live peaceably together. And we must never go down that road again. We remember the fine words of John Henry Cardinal Newman. We should ever conduct ourselves towards our enemy as if he were one day to be our friend. As well as Your Holiness's own words, in Caritatis in Veritate, that the development of peoples depends on a recognition that the human race is a single family working together in true communion, not simply a group of subjects who happen to live side by side. We celebrate both our commonalities and our differences, because if we had nothing in common, we couldn't communicate. And if we had everything in common, we'd have nothing to say. You, Your Holiness, have spoken of the Catholic Church as a creative minority. And perhaps that's what we should all aspire to be, creative minorities, inspiring one another and bringing our different gifts to the common good. Britain has been so enriched by its minorities, by every single group represented here today, and the intricate harmonies of our several voices. And one of our commonalities is that we surely believe that faith has a major role in strengthening civil society. In the face of a deeply individualistic culture, we offer community. Against consumerism, we talk about things that have value, but not a price. Against cynicism, we dare to admire and respect. In the face of fragmenting families, we believe in consecrating relationships. We believe in marriage as a commitment, parenthood as a responsibility, and the poetry of everyday life when it is etched in homes and schools with the charisma of holiness and grace. In our communities, we value people not for what they earn or what they buy or even how they vote, but for what they are, every one of them, a fragment of the divine presence. We hold life holy. And each of us is lifted by the knowledge that we are part of something greater than all of us, that created us in forgiveness and love, and that asks us to create in forgiveness and love. Each of us, in our own way, is a guardian of values that are in danger of being lost in our short attention span, hyperactive, information-saturated, wisdom-starved age. And though our faiths are profoundly different, yet we recognize in one another the presence of faith itself, that habit of the heart that listens to the music beneath the noise and knows that God is the point at which soul touches soul and is enlarged by the presence of otherness. Your Holiness, you have honored us with your presence, and we honor you. May you continue to lead with wisdom and generosity of spirit, and may all our efforts combine to become a blessing to humanity and to God. Thank you.
Holy Father, may I present now Dr. Khalid Azzam, who tries through his work as Chief Executive of the Prince's School for Traditional Arts to encourage people to look on art not merely as individual expression, but also as a connection with something more universal, indeed with transcendent aspects of life and truth. Dr. Azzam.
Holy Father, distinguished guests, I'm honored to be asked to speak at this auspicious occasion today, which has gathered such a distinguished audience from many faiths and backgrounds. In the Quran it is said, "We created you all from a single man and a single woman, and made you into nations and tribes so that you may come to know one another." The individual divine messages we have received give us the means to realize not only the purpose of our daily existence, but also to fulfill our potential as human beings in eternity. These divine messages are therefore interpreted both in terms of a moral code that allow us to interact as fellow human beings in this world, but also as a series of metaphysical principles that enable us to transcend our physical state and understand our direct relationship to God. It is thus that we can live our lives with the full knowledge that the divine touches every aspect of our being. This intervention of the divine in our lives expresses itself through a series of manifestations which follow a clear hierarchical structure. On the first level, which is the level of our physical existence, it places us in an environment and gives us the responsibility for its well-being. On the second level, it gives us a religious and moral code which binds together our communities and from which civilizations emerge. But on the highest level, the level of the spirit, it allows us the privilege of the consciousness of an absolute reality from which we come and onto which we return. I'm speaking here today amongst believers, but it is a fact that we all face a world that has mainly chosen to deny the existence of the divine in our lives. And we are seeing everywhere the consequences of that choice. As human beings, we have the free will to choose a religious life or not, and to decide whether we believe in the existence of God or not. But what we cannot deny is that we all exist and can never escape from a certain order, which I can only describe as the natural order. Every day, we witness the majesty of the rising and setting sun. We are moved by the gentle beauty of the moon. And we have always structured our lives according to the four seasons. This order is what binds all creation together in a harmonious whole, which constantly creates realms of multiplicity from a principle of unity. And yet, this natural order is often interpreted simply as a cycle of existence, which needs to be preserved and extended for our physical well-being. The focus on ecology and the environment has become a religion of the modern world. Although one can never deny the need to treat the physical world responsibly, we have to realize that this religion of ecology does not fully address the true role of man as vicegerent of God in this world. It also does not extend the understanding of the cycle of creation into a means of fulfilling our role in eternity. This limited understanding of our role on earth is directly connected to the loss of the capacity to understand the language of symbolism, which is one of the fundamental means of expression of the divine manifestation. It is tragic to realize that we have simply lost the ability to understand the language that God speaks to us through his creation. And I quote again from the Quran, "We shall show them our signs in every region of the earth and in themselves until it becomes clear to them that this is the truth." The work that we do at the Prince's School of Traditional Arts, established by His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales a few years ago now, goes some way to regain this understanding of the language of symbolism, which leads to consciousness of universal principles and not just historical or geographical facts. One of the main disciplines we teach is the science of geometry, which we practice as a means for our students to understand God's creative principle and its manifestation in the order of nature. I can give a brief but moving example of this understanding. We know of no two snowflakes that ever fell to the ground that are the same. Yet all snowflakes originate and held together by the principle of sixfold geometry. I would also like to stress the importance of this discipline of geometry by quoting from the Rasail of Ikhwan al-Safa, who were fundamental in the transfer of Platonic thought to the Islamic world in the 11th century. Know, O brother, that the study of sensible geometry leads to skill in all practical arts, while the study of intelligible geometry leads to skill in the intellectual arts, because this science is one of the gates through which we move to the knowledge of the essence of the soul, and that is true knowledge. Your Holiness, I fully believe that the true understanding of the natural order of being and its manifestation within us as well as around us can lead humankind today to transcend historical and geographical differences, as well as individuals and sometimes exclusive ownership of the divine, and allow us to fulfill our lives as harmonious elements of the one creative order. I thank you.
Distinguished guests, dear friends, I am very pleased to have this opportunity to meet you, the representatives of the various religious communities in Great Britain. I greet both the ministers of religion present and those of you who are active in politics, business, and industry. I am grateful to Dr. Azzam and to Chief Rabbi Lord Sachs for the greetings which they have expressed on your behalf. As I salute you, let me also wish the Jewish community in Britain and throughout the world a happy and holy celebration of Yom Kippur. I would like to begin my remarks by expressing the Catholic Church's appreciation for the important witness that all of you bear as spiritual men and women living at a time when religious convictions are not always understood or appreciated. The presence of committed believers in various fields of social and economic life speaks eloquently of the fact that the spiritual dimension of our lives is fundamental to our identity as human beings, that man, in other words, does not live by bread alone. As followers of different religious traditions working together for the good of the community at large, we attach great importance to this side-by-side dimension of our cooperation, which complements to the face-to-face aspect of our continuing dialogue. On the spiritual level, all of us in our different ways are personally engaged in a journey that grants an answer to the most important question of all, the question concerning the ultimate meaning of human existence. The quest for the sacred is the search for the one thing necessary, which alone satisfies the longings of the human heart. In the 5th century, St. Augustine describes the search in these terms: Lord, you have created us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you. As we embark on this adventure, we come to realize more and more that the initiative lies not with us, but with the Lord. It is not so much we who are seeking him, but rather he who is seeking us. Indeed, it was he who placed that longing for him deep within our hearts. Your presence and witness in the world points towards the fundamental importance for human life of the spiritual quest in which we are engaged. Within their own spheres of competence, the human and natural sciences provide us with an invaluable understanding of aspects of our existence and they deepen our grasp of the workings of the physical universe, which can then be harnessed in order to bring great benefit to the human family. Yet these disciplines do not and cannot answer the fundamental question, because they operate on another level altogether. They cannot satisfy the deepest longings of the human heart. They cannot fully explain to us our origin and our destiny, why and for what purpose we exist. Nor indeed can they provide us with an exhaustive answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? The quest for the sacred does not devalue other fields of human inquiry. On the contrary, it places them in a context which magnifies their importance as ways of responsibly exercising our stewardship in creation. In the Bible, we read that after the work of creation was completed, God blessed our first parents and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it." He entrusted us with the task of exploring and harnessing the mystery of nature in order to serve a higher good. And what is that higher good? In the Christian faith, it is expressed as love for God and love for our neighbor. And so we engage with the world wholeheartedly and enthusiastically, but always with a view to serving that higher good, lest we disfigure the beauty of creation by exploiting it for selfish purposes. So it is a general religious belief points us beyond present utility towards the transcendent. It reminds us of the possibility and the imperative of moral conversion, of the duty to live peaceably with our neighbor, of the importance of living a life of integrity. Properly understood, it brings enlightenment. It purifies our hearts and inspires noble and generous action to the benefit of the entire human family. It motivates us to cultivate the practice of virtue and to reach out towards one another in love with the greatest respect for religious traditions different from our own. Ever since the Second Vatican Council, the Catholic Church has placed special emphasis on the importance of dialogue and cooperation with the followers of other religions. In order to be fruitful, this requires reciprocity on the part of all partners in dialogue and the followers of other religions. I am thinking in particular of situations in some parts of the world where cooperation and dialogue between religions calls for mutual respect, the freedom to practice one's religion and to engage in acts of public worship, and the freedom to follow one's conscience without suffering ostracism or persecution, even after conversion from one religion to another. Once such a respect and openness has been established, peoples of all religions will work together effectively for peace and mutual understanding, and so give a convincing witness before the world. This kind of dialogue needs to take place on a number of different levels and should not be limited to formal discussions. The dialogue of life involves simply living alongside one another and learning from one another in such a way as to grow in mutual knowledge and respect. The dialogue of action brings us together in concrete forms of collaboration as we apply our religious insights to the task of promoting integral human development, working for peace, justice, and the stewardship of creation. Such a dialogue may include exploring together how to defend human life at every stage and how to ensure the non-exclusion of the religious dimension of individuals and communities in the life of society. Then, at the level of formal conversations, there is a need not only for theological exchange, but also sharing our spiritual riches, speaking of our experience of prayer and contemplation, and expressing to one another the joy of our encounter with divine love. In this context, I am pleased to note the many positive initiatives undertaken in this country to promote such dialogue at a variety of levels. As the Catholic Bishops of England and Wales noted in their recent document, Meeting God in Friend and Stranger, the effort to reach out in friendship to followers of other religions is becoming a familiar part of the mission of the local church, a characteristic feature of the religious landscape in this country. My dear friends, as I conclude my remarks, let me assure you that the Catholic Church follows the path of engagement and dialogue out of genuine sense of respect for you and your beliefs. Catholics, both in Britain and throughout the world, will continue to work to build bridges of friendship to other religions, to heal past wrongs, and to foster trust between individuals and communities. Let me reiterate my thanks for your welcome and my gratitude for this opportunity to offer you my encouragement for a dialogue with your Christian sisters and brothers. Upon all of you, I invoke abundant divine blessings. Thank you very much.
Most Holy Father, when I remember him, I find I give ever greater thanks for your predecessor, Pope Paul VI. And he once referred to this land as a terreno ecumenico. The story of this land, including the fact that blood was once shed because of conflicts about the way of life of Christ, offers specific challenges and opportunities in the ecumenical journey to which the Holy Spirit calls us in our day. And to that journey, in all its complexities, you are devoting several hours in this coming part of this day. But it seems to me, because of our complex history, again with dark days and indeed bloodshed through issues of domination, culture, race and religion, I feel this is a unique terrain in the issue which gathers us all here today. There are specific challenges and opportunities which we have had to face and still face if we would discern together how to be always and everywhere instruments of justice and peace. We thank you, and I do so in great confidence in the light of the sharing that's taken place here this morning. We thank you together for your presence, for your words, and we promise that we will be faithful to the way of truth, wisdom, holiness, and peace. please remain seated now until the end of our gathering this morning. Chief Rabbi.